disclaimer, we'd like to note before the start of this interview that the opinions about to be expressed by the guest on tonight's Gettin Salty Experience podcast are that of the guest and do not directly or necessarily reflect the views of the host of the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Put the fucking fire out!
You're listening to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast.
Hello, Mike Cologne. Went for
Good
Mike
evening.
Cologne tonight. I did. He's watching a Knicks game on and off.
I am.
Welcome back to the Gettin Salty Experience podcast. This is the only one that brings the Firehouse kitchen table. Best podcast in the world. Right to you guys. Right to you superheroes. They are superheroes, aren't they, Roof? I mean, to be honest with you.
Mike's a superhero.
Mike.
He went back to the tie now. I don't know what he's doing. Sometimes he comes. I don't know.
Sometimes he feels. Well, maybe if he feels he's got a chief on, he's got to wear.
Not even. It's the weather. So the other day I wanted to wear one. The last show I was on, it was like 80 degrees in this room. I just couldn't do it.
I think
a wife beater one time.
He wears the suit and tie when he feels like maybe he could,
get the chief on for his side. That's what he does. We're gonna look real professional here.
Look at his face. I got him. I got
to tell you, this family of Meyers, bro. Deputy chief after deputy chief after deputy chief. I'm feeling a little delinquent, so I think I'm going to wear this tonight. Just on top of my head, a little deputy chief helmet front shield on top of my head, so I don't feel bad. How's that look?
So you don't feel bad?
Yeah, about myself.
I got you.
I don't feel bad about myself.
I mean, not just the deputy chief either. I mean,
he's a boss deputy. Well, his brother just made deputy, I think, but his father was an assistant chief, I believe. Look at the whole story. There's cops in there. There's, like I said, superheroes, bro. Cops, firemen, and military personnel, bro. The real true superheroes.
Wait, did you look at his itinerary? I mean, the itinerary that we got?
I started yesterday. I just finished this morning.
I was writing down stuff. I'm like, first, yeah.
Page after page.
It's always the chiefs.
Quite a legacy.
They're very. There's a reason why he's the chief, and you are.
Yeah, no doubt.
Sticking a sticker.
I got to tell you right here. If I just look at this, I don't care what the job is. You're hired. You're hired. Whatever it is. With a resume like this, you're already hired. Right?
A little bit of a slouch, though. Hasn't really worked in any.
He hasn't been to anything major. I got to say, if I look at this 8-page resume,
a couple years in Rescue 4, whatever.
Let me tell you something. I left a lot out when I put. The responses that he had.
Put so many characters in there, right?
I was running out. It was like 2,000. I think I was running out of stuff.
2,000 space limit on that thing. But
I still have 2 decades to go.
Fireman, that's all I know, right? We got to work with him as a fireman.
I don't know if you ever seen any fires over there, anyways. Where
Rescue 4?
Yeah. 175. Where the hell are they?
I'll have to ask him how he managed to get to 170. It must have been a fluke. I think it was a fluke. Yeah. I think his brother.
Maybe 2 on a hard 4. 7 out. 7 out.
I think his brother went to triple deuce. I think I was in the academy with his brother. I think. I'm not sure. Well, he went. You saw where he went, and saw where I went. So I mean,
you're sticking stickers on your forehead.
I'm putting stickers on my forehead. It's good ilk. That's what I say. The Meyer family, good ilk, right, Ruff?
He ain't lying.
Nah, nope, I'm not. Anywho, let's get to a commercial or two here. Who we got? Kevin Malone's in there. Who else is in there? He's a funny dude. QCBs. Where's that?
Fat Daddy's in there.
Fat Daddy's in there.
Yep. Darren Phillips is in there.
Where is that Gabe character?
He's in there. He's acknowledged. Mike Kane, who's Truckee 117, former fire marshal, he's in there. Mike Rapcavage is in there as well.
Rapcavage?
Oh, it's Mike Kane? I remember him.
What's QCB's real name again? I always fucking
Landis Robinson.
Robinson.
Which always prompts the line, "Where have you gone, Mr. Robinson? I'll only get salty chat turns its eyes to you."
Nice. Stephen Bryant's in there. Brian Kay. Of course, Joseph Schneiderman. All the regulars in there.
Jimmy Graham, Captain Graham.
Oh, Captain Graham in there from Del Boca Vista, Florida.
What time is it? He must have just finished up over there.
He must have finished the early bird. He's got to get being close to bedtime, though.
He's got the peaceful,
he's
easy.
He's over the AARP magazine. He's going to go right to bed. All right, come on. Enough this shit. You got a real important guy to get on here. Mike, give us a commercial. Give us a little Vince's commercial.
Yes,
Hey,
it's time for our
Alfie.
friends over at Armor Tough. Here we go. Let's hear from them.
Armor Tough Firehouse flooring was recently installed in station number 7, the newest of the DeKalb County fire stations in Decatur, Georgia. Meeting Deputy Chief Smith of Support Services, Vince explained that Armor Tough interlocking flooring is the only floor that is tough enough to withstand the abuse of fire apparatus, along with fire personnel at a very busy station. Chief Smith explained, "The flooring in all of our stations over the years gave us multiple problems. We need a floor that can last as long as the walls and the roof. That's why we chose Armor Tough. The installation team came from New Jersey, and in 3 days, they had completed their work without any disruption to our daily operations. We were very impressed with not only the product, but with the workmanship as well. I highly recommend Armor Tough for your station's floor." Call Vince today for a no-obligation quote at 908-917-7697.
Oh, you know what? I think we did forget to. Did we do the disclaimer tonight?
We
We
did.
did it.
Oh, we
Yeah,
did?
she was it played at the beginning.
No, John Albanese, you are not chopped liver, my dear friend. You're the bomb, Diddy. He's a good
Hi, John.
dude, that Johnny Albanese.
Very good. Good job.
He's 10-8. No, he's not 10-8. All right. Excellent. All right, so Ruff, let's get the big guy in here. You know, he's a big bad football player, too. Did you know that?
We have to
I
do
did.
Salty Wire. I'm sorry. We do have Salty Wire as well. Don't forget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one more ad, and then we'll
Play
get
it,
you
Mike.
there. Here we go. The Firewire app is the go-to resource for all news and incidents in the fire and emergency services. The mobile app is here and available for download. This long-awaited update addresses a handful of concerns in regard to intermittent crashes, jurisdiction areas, map settings, notifications, and more. This iteration displays our newly designed user interface with the focus on expansion, as we want to cover your neighborhood, city, and county. Our goal is to provide our users with the most accurate and on-time information regarding emergency incidents, news, and knowledge on all things fire and emergency services. Our newest addition, in partnership with the Gettin Salty experience, brings you Salty Wire, where you can view never-before-seen premium content from Lou and Coobs and exclusive segments in various categories. Subscribe today on saltywire.com.
I think we just put the new hair shaking one up there, right? We did the interview with hair shaking one up there. And we just finished the first, how many years? 1915 to 1970 of the rescues. Mike did a fabulous job editing and voicing over him. Fabulous. Wait till you see that. It's a gem, Mike. It's a gem.
Thank you.
That's going to be going up there soon, too. We got a lot of new content.
It's right up there with the squadometry.
Oh, it is up there with the squad entry. Yep. Let's bring him in now. Let's bring him in. We don't even know what position he's playing. We got to ask him all those pertinent questions. You know what I mean?
I think it was a defense guy.
A big dude. He's girthy, big, burly.
Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Oh, yeah, I'm ready. You ready?
You want to test or you're good? All right. Coming to the stage, Assistant Chief Mike Meyers.
Oh, you got it.
Not bad. What do you say, Chief?
How you guys doing tonight? How's everything?
What
Throw the ball
position?
in there.
What position?
Inside and outside linebacker.
Fast and big.
There
Woo!
Listen, he has no neck. He's got to be a linebacker.
He's got to be. Look at that guy, man. Holy good gravy.
But
Number
wait, there's more.
88?
Number 98.
98.
Oh, 98. Can't see.
98, yeah. That was when we won the championship in 2003 in Houston.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, you guys went. You played with Big Philly then at that time?
I did. I got to play a lot of years with Phil. God rest his
Great
soul.
guy. What a great guy, man, right?
Yeah,
Really
one of the
Tofano.
best. One of the living cartoon character, as I used to say about Phil.
Self-proclaimed smartest man on the job. What he used to say. He was a
How
gem.
you say to Proby, we'll follow you around forever, right?
Yeah.
Your brother used to torture him too, right, Coop?
Oh my God, yeah. Before we get too lost in the weeds here, we got to be patriotic, Mike. Let's do a duty.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We got to do an update show with that knucklehead someday.
Figure out what he's up to.
Edie?
Petey. Yeah, we got to.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
He'd come on with his slide there, or whatever the hell he's got there.
17 slide into the 14 or whatever the hell, the 9 into the 17 slide, whatever. All right, let's get started because we got a lot of career to go through here. We got
I'm sure we could fit it into 2 hours.
We could fit it into 2 hours because he comes from a long bloodline of firefighters, Ruffy. I don't know if you know that. I don't gotta ask him why he got out of the job, but let's go back to when maybe he wasn't like this. You know, maybe he was a young strapping lad. Where he grew up, how many brothers and sisters? We know Dad was a fireman, so give us a little early history, Chief Meyers.
Sure. Grew up in Levittown, Long Island. Was born in Jackson Heights first, and then was hanging out with all the wrong people at 6 months old, so they moved me out to Levittown on Long Island.
It's a bad seed.
Running around with all the wrong crowd, and came out here to the suburbs. Grew up in Levittown, nice blue collar, big time cop, firefighter, teacher, nurse type of town. Went to Catholic school, like so many others around here in Levittown. Went to Holy Trinity High School over in Hicksville. Loved going over there. Got to meet so many guys before I got on the job. You know, played in that Catholic football league. Guys who played all over the place on Staten Island, Queens, you know, the Bronx. So it was great. It was a great way to introduce yourself and kind of really get to know everybody. But loved high school. Loved growing up in Levittown.
You played linebacker in high school too?
Yeah, linebacker, tight end, a little offensive line when they needed me to do that, and you know, basically wherever they needed you to run, hit, and tackle people. That's where I just went out.
He's a hitter. I know it. Look at it. No neck hitter.
Run fast and tackle them. You know?
That's it. Yep. How many brothers and sisters? I know the one brother.
I'm one of 4 brothers. I came in second in line out of the 4 brothers. Everyone went on to distinguished careers. You know, my older brother, Harry, lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force.
Wow.
At one time, he had the second most amount of air hours over Iraq and Afghanistan and everything along those lines. My brother Dennis is a deputy chief along with us, 30 years on the fire department now. I have 33. My father did 42 years, retired as a Manhattan Borough commander. He was an assistant chief. And my mother did a great job of making sure that we were all safe, happy, and healthy. My other brother was as a lieutenant on the Nassau County PD. He was a lieutenant on the NYPD, left and went out to Nassau and became a lieutenant out here in Nassau County and loving life out there in Nassau now.
That established September 4th, 1965. That's when they got married?
That's when my parents got married, yeah.
I freaking love that picture, dude.
Yeah, I had someone paint this for us for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And, you know, it's just probably one of the best ideas I ever came up with. And, you know, my parents obviously loved it. They're both still with us. So that's even the best part about it. And, you know, they get to see us still survive and thrive and continue on.
Got some good oaks there, huh?
That's what I'm saying, bro. We got to maybe we got to get the old man on the job too, bro, on the show here.
I'm sure he could tell you stories all the way back. He came on from corrections in 1968.
Nice.
Yeah, went right to the South Bronx, an 85 engine, which, you know, still to this day, I can remember going up there. They started off in 82 and 31, and then they switched to the Bronx Tin House a couple of years in. I was born in 69, so I wasn't born when he was in 82 and 31. So I only remember going up to the Bronx Tin House when it was 85 and 59, going to their picnics and just going up there for the Christmas parties and just being in awe. Like, you know, back then you didn't have seatbelts and all that stuff. So you'd stand in the back of the Maverick, the Ford Maverick, and you know, sit there when he would take one of us to pick up his check. You know what I mean? When it was check
day. That was
day.
a big thing, right? To pick up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because especially for us, he didn't let us have soda at home. So when we went to the Firehouse, he'd always give us a quarter to put in the machine, you know, get a soda out of there. Funny. So that was just a treat in itself. And then walking in there and, like, you know, just seeing the decimation of the Bronx at that time in the 70s of, like, you know, rubble piles and brick.
I thought you were in, like Louis says, right? Lebanon, right? You drive
it was like Beirut in like the 80s. it was just absolutely. That's when everyone keeps saying, "Oh, the city's falling apart now." I'm always like, let's go back to another time when I can remember it, and it was just absolutely brutal back then. You know,
like the War of Worlds.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'd go there for the Christmas parties, and almost every Christmas party, they'd run out the door and go to fight a fire or two. You know, everyone from the Firehouse would would go with everybody to go watch them fight the fire, and then you come back to the firehouse. So it was just a great time.
Hey, Chief, was your grandfather on the job too?
No, my grandfather wasn't. So my father was the first one to
first?
join the world of the civil service. Yeah, my grandfather and my great grandfather actually in Calvary Cemetery was stone. So he wrote on all the stones out there. He had a stone business out there in Calvary Cemetery in Queens. He grew up in Maspeth. Then he moved to Greenpoint. Yeah. And then his son, my grandfather was a paint mixer at a BP paint factory in Maspeth, Queens. So then my father got on and started to make our legacy, for the Meyers.
Was your father born in Maspeth too?
He was Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
That's Louis' neck of the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a big Greenpoint family. My uncle Artie, they lived right across the street. Artie McCarthy, he was a 44 truck guy. So, he was right across the street from my grandparents and where my father lived. So, it was good stuff.
Wow. So your father became borough commander?
Manhattan Borough Commander, yeah.
What year did he get out?
He got out, I think it was, I believe, 1996.
Oh, so you're already on the job, though. He saw you get on the job.
Oh, no. So he was on September 11th. I'm sorry. So he got out in 2006. So he did 42 years.
Oh, wow. He did 40.
All right. Let's not jump ahead yet. Let's get back to when you go into probie school. So what year did you take the test? Where is this? You got on in 91, but what year did you take the test?
I took the test in
87.
87. So I was lucky enough, again, having a father on the job, one of the things he used to always call was the best $25 insurance policy you could find. Right. So whatever you were going to do with your life,
take the freaking
take the cop test, take the fire test, get out there. We'll spend the $25. You'll get hired by someone. You'll always at least have a career and pension if that's what you need. And so I was a senior in high school. So we actually had to cancel. We were going to cancel one of our football games because so many kids on my high school team were taking the test that they actually had to move the game to Friday night because the test was on a Saturday.
Wow.
Where you'd go out there and stand there and for hours wait to get let in and go take the test.
Did you take the Pudgy Walsh class?
Of course, yeah. Pudgy University.
Pudgy Walsh class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just gave the number out. I just gave that to like a bunch of guys up here. I'm like, hey, listen, what are your sons? They're like in the low 20s or young 20s.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, like you said, it's insurance policy. Just take it. I think the filing ends on.
Yeah, he said it to me. I give it to my son.
Yeah,
it begins in June. Yeah, so
yeah.
Anyone should get on there. Go to @join FDNY.
You too, Cologne.
On any social media, and they could get on there and maybe start their career. Like I tell everybody, unfortunately, it takes at least 4 years at the best to get hired. And people are like, "There's no way." I go, "No, seriously." I go, "It's going to take you 4 years between you get through the psychological." The physical and the test taking part of it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Cologne will zip right through there. He'll be out in 2 years.
You see the pipes on him? Run right through that, probably. You tear it up.
I don't have the residency points.
The old residency points.
Yeah.
Let's see. What the hell was I just going to ask you? I forgot now what I was going to say.
So
probie school in 91. Anybody of note that we might know besides yourself and your probie left?
Yeah. I mean, again, there's always the guys some of the guys that were most.
McBride. I see McBride from here.
Yeah. Robbie McBride. You had Marty Simmons who passed away. Kevin Hannon, Richie Schmidt.
I see Richie Schmidt in the back. Yeah.
Yeah. You have, Kevin Hannon, Tuggy. He was in 275 forever. You have Big Joe McHugh, who was my XO in safety, how you come back and you wind up together. John Fowler, Joey Castelli, Rob Amato, like Walter Zola, who went to 332 with me. And also I went to 175. Walter went to 332. And then we had Jimmy Lowe. He went to 332 as well. So, we had 100 people. So there's 6 of us left still going 32 and a half years later.
Yeah, I think McBride just got out, right? I believe.
Yeah. I see Rob in the gym all the time, still working it out.
Oh, where are you at now? You in Levittown now? Where you live?
I came back to Levittown. I made a circuit tourist route. Levittown, Merrick, then to Stony Brook, Smithtown, and now back to Levittown.
You call your daughter Bean too?
I do. Yeah, she was.
Ruffy calls his daughter Bean.
Yeah. My ex-wife used to call her Jelly Bean when she was little, and then she kept with it with Bean, and that just stuck forever.
How many kids you got now, boss?
There's only one, so I'm blessed with the one.
She's not spoiled, huh? One daughter. Holy moly!
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I'd ask you how you got to 175, but I think we already know that answer, right, Ruff?
I'm saying why? I mean, I'm not saying taking anything we say all the time. 175, 174. Those are like the hidden gems of the job.
Run to work ratio.
Oh my God, it's
175. But
right. But why did you pick that? Did you pick that, or did your old man? Yeah, exactly.
No, I to be honest with you, like a lot of guys who I've seen on your show who've come on and spoken, like I never rode with my father. So the first time I ever rode on a fire truck was when I got to 175, my first day in 175. So that was the first time I ever got on a rig besides probie school or anything along those lines. My father didn't talk a tremendous amount about work. You would hear him talking to other people about it. So that's how we picked it up. So even growing up, I wanted to be a cop or FBI. And that's why I have an accounting degree, because, you needed an accounting degree in order to get on the FBI. Grew up as a big Hill Street Blues fan. I just wanted to run and chase people and tackle people. Kind of.
You see Cologne over there right now?
He's a big PD guy.
Yeah. Watching Lawrence Taylor run around and tackle people as linebacker for the Giants, or, getting on the NYPD.
They'd be like Terry Tate, office linebacker.
My God, that would be awesome, bro.
That's how you tackle perps.
I could see the chief pulling that off. I can see him pulling that off. Where's your BI form?
But,
everybody knows you finish the Joe, you make some mo. Everybody knows you Frano, you do BI.
So just got to 175 by the luck of the draw, just like everybody else.
Oh,
yeah. I actually wanted to go to the Bronx, and my father was like, "Why go somewhere where you get just as much fire duty in Brooklyn and you don't have to pay a toll?" So it's more expensive to work in the Bronx. Having grown up watching him in the South Bronx, my first thought was if 85 was already, they went to become the truck company, I think, on City Island, and 59 had moved up north. So he asked me where I wanted to go, and I said, well, I'd like to go to 59. And he gave me some of the best advice ever. And when he said, make your own way, go to Brooklyn, make your own way, be your own person. And, so I wound up going to Brooklyn to East New York, and just an amazing, I always say, like, it's like your first love on the fire department when you move around and get promoted. Yeah. It's the place I remember the most. It's where you had the most fun. It's where you build your foundation that I'm still carrying with me now all the way, through being the chief of safety now.
Where was your father at the time that you got on the job? What was he doing? Was he
he was the Manhattan Borough Commander at that time.
Already was. All right.
Yeah, he was already Manhattan Borough Commander.
So you didn't walk into 175 and say, "Hey, originally I wanted to go to the Bronx, but my father told me to come to Brooklyn."
No, I did not. No, I did not.
I didn't tell you that much.
Yeah. We were taught certain things, and that was not one of the things.
Keep your mouth shut. That's what.
You keep your mouth shut. You went in there and you listened more than you spoke, and even if the same people gave you the same drill, different people gave you the same drill every day, you sat there and listened, and you might pick up a new tip or a new tool, and you listen to it and learn.
Yeah, and they pretend like this is the first time you do it. If you do it well, they'll be like, "Wow, this kid's pretty smart, man," even though you've done it already, right?
Yeah.
So who were some of the guys that were there when you got there? Like, who was the captain and some of the officers?
When I first got there, Tommy McEnroe was the captain of 175. He was there for about, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years. He was a firefighter in 59 truck with my father.
Oh.
So, I think that's probably part of the reason I went there. Bob Majeski was a lieutenant in the truck there, also a firefighter with my father there, an 85 engine.
Oh, wow.
So, I guess that's probably part of the reason I ended up in that particular firehouse. Just people he trusted with, my development and, with learning and making sure I learned things the right way. They did a tremendous job. And, we had Mark Troiano was one of the bosses there, John Wagaman when I first walked in, and they, Larry Weston, Hank Mellon, Tom Greeny, they're all the lieutenants. They would, and every one of them, and this is where the Brooklyn differs from the Bronx, right? Everywhere's a little bit different, and no way's the right way. But in Brooklyn, you get off the rig, second due, you walk up to a building. I learned so much between my officers and the senior men asking me, hey, what's the makeup of this building? When do you think it was built? What are the avenues of fire travel? Hey, what if you had the OV here? How would you get to the rear? If you had the roof, what's your thought process with getting to the roof? You name it. They would give you a host of different scenarios. Hey, if you were working in 332 on a mutual today, how many lengths do you think you would need? If the fire was on the third floor, so you just learned such a tremendous amount on every run that you went on. Every run became a drill. And I like to think that I carried that throughout my career, in every place that I went by doing the same thing. And sometimes in the Bronx, I would get in trouble when you were covering through, like, hey, Chief, we don't get out of the car here. And I'm like, well, I do. And like, it was just my way of doing things. So,
when you got there, like, did you know, seeing that your father was, borough commander, were you like, did you know you wanted to be a chief and study, or did you like, I think I'll stay a fireman. I'm not going to beat that anyway. So why even try?
No, I don't think I ever thought that. I think, again, I think that's part of that upbringing of that ability to achieve and want to achieve. Me and my brothers, like all of us were captains of our football teams and wrestling teams and baseball teams. And, we were always trying to strive and achieve and become a state champion in wrestling, become an all league or all county football player, whatever sport we played. We all were always, again, we were all 5'10" and under. We just would work hard and just try to make it happen. I think that's all part of it. And I'd like to see more kids today be like that and just say, hey, I want to achieve this, and just don't believe anyone else and just make it happen. And you're going to take some lumps along the way, and it's all right. You're going to be all right. Just get up, dust yourself off, and get in the next play.
Yeah, I think that's what's missing today, that drive, that work ethic, that nobody's going to hand you anything. Whatever you want, you got to.
Well, they want to be millionaires by 30, but they don't want to. They want to live their best life.
Yeah.
Right.
At 24.
Yeah.
There's only so many jobs as influencers, right? There's got to be a lot of other jobs.
Yeah. Well, when you say influencers, if you're talking about taking your top off and walking around with your underwear, then that's an influencer, I guess.
Oh, I see.
There might be a little nerve there
Oh, on me?
No, that hit my nerve. Like, I'm tired of seeing these people.
Oh! You want to do a rant? Yeah. Right.
Do we need a lose rant segment?
Do we need a lose rant now, bro?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I got it out.
You're all good now. Take a breath.
I feel better.
Let's recap. Let's regroup. All right. That's the heart.
Okay,
that's the heart. You all right?
Everything's good.
I don't want you to go down. You just had that stent put in. I don't want you.
Eat that broccoli, So.
But when I got to 175 to continue on with that, like I got there was like an all-star team of folks there. From Harry Davis, who you guys know from the sock world, Tommy Kavekis, who just was always striving.
I didn't know he was there.
I always pass it on to my daughter. Dirt don't hurt. That was Tommy's favorite saying in 175. Dirt don't hurt. Dave Gianelli, Paul Rinston, Eddie Fulford, who took me into my first fire, which, you're always going to remember. Kevin Chocolwick, Hank Malay, Molly the Volley was there with us for a little while after he came from Rescue One.
Was he there when you got there, or he came?
No, he came. I was already there for about 4 years.
So he was your bop.
Yeah. I don't know how he would take that one,
I'm surprised he's not in the chat today. Get in the sink, Malay. Rescue One, where is that? I don't care. Get in the sink.
Yeah, and that's how it worked in 175 was everything was the coat rack, So like when you came into the company, you would go to the back of the coat rack. So you could transfer in from the engine, have 20 years on. You're still going to the back of the coat rack,
end, baby.
Yeah, and that's how they would do chauffeur school, and you'd continually move up as you were going, which I thought was a great system because you could be in the truck for 7 years. You get an engine guy who's coming in, again. And there's a lot to learn when you change companies, like as you guys know too, when you go from a regular company to a special operations company, there's just so much to learn, so many nuances, so many new things to pick up on.
So before we get too far ahead, what was that first fire that he took you into? Do you remember it?
Yeah, the first fire I went to, believe it or not, we were in a underneath on Broadway, in a subway station, right? So Eddie Fulford, we go in. There's smoke and, in an escalator, you think, oh, it's not the big deal. It's like a 3-story escalator. So we start walking up the escalator and our boots all started melting. So it was pretty wild.
Wow.
So your boots are melting as you're walking up this escalator. We come down, when now we're trying to find another way up. We get up there, we get to the other side of the door. We open the door. For whatever reason, the captain was like at the time, let's not go in there for a second. Shines his flashlight down. There's no stairs. It's about a 3-story drop.
Holy shit.
All the way down, that's
Spidey sense was tingling.
Scenario. So it was just a crazy, escalator fire in a raised subway. So that was technically my first 1075 first do. So you never forget that. You're always going to remember that.
Yep.
They always had a lot of frames over there. That good jobs over there. A lot of frames and balloon construction over there. I had a couple good jobs over there by 175, right around the Firehouse too.
Oh yeah, it's amazing when even from now, like we're traveling around, nobody fights the roll frame fires better than Brooklyn, because Brooklyn, again, like that's your main bread and butter, right? Like especially in an area like 175, 103, 107, those companies over there. That's what they do. That's the kind of work you're doing, trying to get ahead of it. Again, the roofmen get smart, right? You're always trying to find someone on a stoop. Hey, you got a scuttle ladder to the roof here? Because otherwise you could wind up in a building where you got no scuttle to the roof, and then you got to come back down, get a ladder, go up there, or try to get up another way.
You guys had the Queen Anne's too, like on the other side of Atlantic, right? In that north section there.
Over there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They had
That's
a lot
what
of big
236 used to kill it. Getting in there alone, getting it to operate for a little while.
They had a great shot at that, man. They were right on the conduit there. Yeah. But how long were you there before they let you tiller?
I was tillering. You started to learn that about 6 or 7 months in, as you were there. And that was always that quarters you had a jackknife in order to get in. That was one of the tougher quarters to back into.
Mm-hmm.
And then 147, when we relocate there, because the building's on an angle, that was also another tough one. On Bravest Street, you had a gas pump right there, so they made it really difficult. You had a gas pump on one side, coat rack on the other. You're going into a full jackknife. Then you'd get a chauffeur like Kevin Chalkowick, who liked to mess with you a little bit and just back in fast, or Harry Davis, they're backing in fast.
Harry Davis. I forgot about Harry Davis.
Forgot about him, man.
Yeah, Harry was one of the best, man. He was like one of the best guys. Didn't speak a lot, but when he spoke, man, it was all business.
Speak softly and carry a big stick.
Yeah, it was just great advice and great stuff. He would sit back and watch and give you advice on life, give you advice on how to deal with the firehouse, advice on firefighting. It was good stuff, man.
He went to what, Squad 18?
Yeah, Squad 18, yeah.
Yeah.
In the latter part of his career, yeah. And you think about that, like how amazing that is. Like a guy with 30 years on, going over to Squad 18. And every time I saw him over there, he was smiling away,
Yeah.
He had a big mustache.
Big mustache, yeah.
Very big mustache. Yeah.
What are the good fires you have over there at 175? We like to hear fire stories.
We always had incredible roll frame fires over there. Again, like just getting in there and just getting ahead of all of them. We had so many incredible jobs with that. Like none of them jump out of my head.
Yeah.
As like some guys are great with how they remember. Like you
had
the can, you had the irons.
Yeah.
We pulled up to 332 Van Sicklen Avenue, and I'm always like, bro, you're better than me. I have so many different stuff dancing around in my head. I wish I could remember all that stuff. I mean, there's always fires that stick out. I remember the first time I was ever overhauling in a fire, and you're taking that feed for the first time, and I'm going, what am I doing in here? I have a college degree, like
I'm smart,
taking it in, and then you get outside, and then you're like, oh my God, that was incredible. Because the heart's beating out of your chest.
And then you said, I got to start studying.
Yeah.
So I got to start doing it.
It was the snoring was more the reason I wanted to start
I
studying,
got you. Yeah.
Get your own
office. When you get your own office, this
were you driving before you left there?
No, just in the tiller. I never got the chance to go to chauffeur school because when after I took the lieutenant's test, I was pretty high up there on the lieutenant's test. So then, from talking to Freddie LaFamina constantly and a couple other folks, I was thinking about going to Rescue 104. That was before the squads existed. And then Freddie brought me over to Rescue 4. Like I got there about 3 or 4 months before squads came into effect. 133 came in, the squads came in, all those companies came in right around the same time.
Who was the captain there when you went to? Was it?
Jack Corcoran was the captain. He was off teaching a class, teaching school at that time, a hazmat school. So we actually had Terry Hatton was actually their UFO at the time when I first got there. So we had Terry Hatton, Freddie LaFamina, we had Larry Gray, and then Kevin Dowdell, who was there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So you went and interviewed with Hatton, or how'd you get over there? What'd you do?
Like anything, you went there and you just listened because like one of the amazing things, and even I remember as a chief, that guy had so much knowledge and would throw so much stuff at people on purpose. He would try to overload you. And that's how we got work a lot of time when he went into boxes. Like you'd be there, and he would just go at some chief and try to find like a weak link chief or someone who was a little unsure of himself, and he would throw 8,000 things at him until they would put us to work, and he would throw just massive amounts of stuff, at the chief, and then chief, I just go in, just I think trying to get him out of there sometimes, but he was always drilling and he was always up, like no matter what you did.
He never slept, that guy.
He never slept in the office anywhere. He'd be sitting at his desk. You look in there at 3:30 in the morning, and you're like, man, I can't believe he's in there listening to the scanner.
To the radio, scanners, right?
Yeah, it was even when we did the Condé Nast building, I'm sure you guys spent a lot of time over there too, when they had that scaffolding collapse.
Oh my God, that was torture.
When that poor woman got killed, when the scaffolding collapsed, when she was going to the bathroom.
Yep.
And then the scaffolding comes through the roof and takes her out. Like
we were there all the time, right?
For a
couple weeks, couple months.
How many we would like? You guys would all go there. Everyone would be like, "Yeah, we're here for 12 hours. This is awful."
Right.
Terry Hatton would take out equipment, and you would be drilling probably for like 8 or 9 of those hours. Doing drills the whole time.
You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Man.
Oh yeah, it was like I'm like, what did I get myself into? But I learned a lot. You learned a ton.
Yeah. Corcoran was a nice guy, wasn't he? Did you get to work?
Oh, he was the absolute best. He actually went to high school with my father.
Did he? I used to see him up at what is it? The grandstand? Is that where we used to hang out?
The grandstand used to hang out there all the time.
Dude, what a nice guy he was. I swear to God. Always took the time to talk to you, sit down, have a beer, whatever it is. But
again, when you look back over, like, you just look at that era of like my father's era, Captain Jack's era, of when they came out. Like, we're never going to get those reps, right? Like those fire reps that those folks got. I was amazed, like when you look at the stats, from like the early 60s up until like, 1967, 68, guys didn't want to go to busy houses. That's how like my father came out of probie school. He knew nobody. They shipped them up to the South Bronx. They were doing 10,000.
Yeah, you were going to busy companies, right?
You were going to busy companies.
Yeah.
And I think it was after that the culture on the FDNY changed, where everyone wanted to go to a busy house because you wanted that pedigree. You know what I mean? Like, if you were sitting there doing 4,000 or 5,000, busy company did 4,000 runs back in the, like you had companies that were doing 200, 300, 400 runs in the early 60s.
Yeah. I know somebody, buff guy, who has every run and worker from 1960 up until present day.
Really?
Is that mine sitting over there? Oh, it is mine. Right. But you wouldn't believe, like, you can see it. It's almost like a swell, like a wave coming, like 60s, 60s, 70s. And it's like insane the amount of runs that these guys would go on. And workers, they didn't really have OSW back then, but the runs and workers, insane. These guys had no time to sit around the firehouse. Very little time to sit around.
Half of those runs didn't even go in the book.
Yeah, half the jobs probably didn't even go in the books, right? I mean,
every one of them would probably be walking around with like, that chest full of medals and ribbons. How much of that went by the wayside as they were running around from fire to fire?
Who said that, Coobs, the other day? South American dictator. Who said that on the show the other day? That was so freaking funny.
I forget who the hell that was. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So what made you want to go to SOC anyway? You're in a great place. You're on the lieutenant's test.
At that point, like I thought, I didn't want to rule that out for my career, so I just thought, I just thought being there as a firefighter would be a great move, and kind of, again, just kind of build out your resume, for leave it open, because it's tough to go into SOC as a lieutenant or as a captain and try to learn what SOC firefighters do. Right, you got to do it on that level, right? Same reason I went to eventually, we'll probably get into it a little bit later, ladder 4, and I got to learn high-rise firefighting from being inside, which made me a much better chief, today, by doing that. So sometimes you just got to get your hands on there, different types of buildings, and, I was there for 7.5 years at that point. I was ready for a little bit of a change, to go and try to find something a little bit different.
Right.
That was the special operations world was the best way to do that.
And you chose 4 over 1 because you were talking to La Femina. He kind of
Freddie was the main guy I was talking to at that time. And then plus Liam Flaherty went over there, who was one of my good friends.
Right.
You had Chuck Downey, who we played football against each other in college, went over there. You had Tony Tarabokia went over there. So, you had a whole bunch of guys who I had known, and Billy Ryan, who was in my probie class, was already just got over there. So you had a whole bunch of guys who were my age, Billy Mahoney, so you had a whole bunch of guys who you could gel with and go over there with.
Who was the senior man there back then?
You had Harry Ford, who was the ultimate senior guy, who was, to me, still like one of the best. So I put him and Tommy Kuvekis up there as with anyone, and Mike Perone up there, 3 of the best firemen I've ever worked with. Then you have Richie Euler was over there.
I've been trying to get him on the show, actually.
Yeah, he would be a good guy to get on the show.
Yeah.
I see him down in Hilton Head every once in a while in South Carolina. You had Eddie Zielman was over there.
The Z-Man.
Who was great. John Gain.
Was Milner still there?
Father Gain. Yeah, Milner.
No, John retired now. Gain.
No, he said it was Milner still there when you.
Oh, Milner was there. Yeah, Mike was there as well. And it just was a great group of guys. Terry Farrell was over there, and one of the toughest parts about getting over there was I was there for about a month, and then the Atlantic Avenue fire happened where Blackmore, La Piedra died, and that was almost like a draw to almost go back, and a couple of the senior guys over there were like, Mike, don't come back. It's because going back there and working there, you feel drawn to go back,
right?
Because you're all grieving together. Jimmy Blackmore was one of the most funny guys that you're ever going to work with in your life, as a lieutenant, and you get drawn back there to go back, and they're like, no, just keep moving forward with your path. And the guys over there really, honestly, from Bradford Street, still to this day, will call me up with advice or call me up and ask me different things and help me out with different stuff. Just a great group of guys. You have Greg McEnroe, Terry Quinn, who got hurt in Atlantic Avenue, Brian Baker, who got hurt in Atlantic Avenue. He got burnt. Yeah. I never thought he was a probie. It's amazing to watch his career of how he's gone on to become a captain.
Oh, he's a captain now?
He's a captain now, yeah. So seeing all that and driving their wives and stuff back to the burn center, and Timmy Stackpole was in there with them. Mm-hmm. He had just came back right before 9/11. So many good people, like that. And then get over to Rescue 4, when you're there, and I just get promoted out of there. And then the Father's Day fire came, which,
when did you get? Well, I got it right here. When did you get promoted?
I got promoted 2000.
In 2000, okay.
Yeah. So I think it was like late 2000, and then the Father's Day fire came, and then that was just absolutely devastating. I remember I was down at my brother's bachelor party in the Jersey Shore, and me and Bronco came Darrell Pearsall from Rescue 4. Mm-hmm. We were down there. He was my college roommate. Played football with him in college and on the fire department team. So we came flying back up to get to the firehouse that night, and just absolutely devastating. Harry Ford was, Brian Fahey, John Downey, just Harry Ford and Brian Fahey were 2 of the most knowledgeable guys that I know, and just to see, that if they could die, it really gave you a light of, man, anybody could, this job can take anybody's life. And sometimes you got to be better lucky than good, but you always try to be good. You
say that all the time. The job can humble you in a second, bro.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
He wasn't even in the building, for God's sakes. He was outside the building, Harry Ford, right? I mean, all those guys, Downing and from 163. And
Yeah, they were trying to take that rear door, that door they
Right.
couldn't get open, right? They had the Hearst tool. They were working on that door forever,
Mm-hmm.
and that just gave it enough air to have it explode.
Yeah, man. So you were a lieutenant in Ladder 11?
Yeah, I got there. I was, when 9/11 happened,
Uh-huh.
I was UFO in ladder 147. I was only there for about 5 or 6 months, covered in the 15th, and then worked at the site for like the first 90 days
Yep.
after, and then at that point, once we found Bronco, like I said, best man at my wedding, my best friend at that time, and still in my heart, always will be, And once we, just so many memories from college and everything else.
I didn't
And
know
once
that you
we
guys were
found
that close.
him, that was like my last day on the site. Like I did like 93 days, I think. At that point, then I was done. I couldn't. As you guys know, just seeing what we saw and going through what we saw, and so many people we would be digging out of the trade center and whatnot on an everyday basis. I once counted, out of the 343 who died, I had probably sat down and had beers and conversations and food and gone out with and been close to about 136 of them. So
And there's probably a lot of them you probably knew by first name to say hello and stuff too, right? So it's
absolutely.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
just absolutely devastating. So
Chief, it's pretty funny. Not to cut you off, but I was just thinking that you guys were and you guys went to college together, and then you worked in the same, not only in the same department, but then you worked in the same firehouse together. And that was kind of like me and Kevin. You know what I mean? Like we did, same thing. He was my best man at my wedding.
Yeah, it was just an incredible experience. He always knew he wanted to be a firefighter, right? Like that guy he was Hempstead Valley gung ho, from the moment I met him, when I was in high school, and he went to a different high school, but I knew him from hanging out with some similar people. And he knew all along, he wanted to be a New York City firefighter. There was no stopping him, and we played a football post together at LIU. And, again, he used to talk about it all the time. And he'd be like, what do you want to do, Mike? And I'd be like, I don't know. I want to run and tackle people for the Giants. And he's like, you're 5'10". You're not going to make it, And you'd be like, all right, well, either way. But, and then I just figured like the accounting world wasn't going to do it for me. And, I got on, and then Bronco got on about a year and a half later. And, it was unfortunate at that time, nobody went to the 15th division out of his class. So he wound up going to 146 truck. Then he went to squad 1, then eventually to rescue 4, just as an amazing guy, like being, for him, like his story itself, you guys could do a whole show on it. Just the traditions he's left behind, like, with the band, every time the band, like when they play on 9/11, they play in that area on purpose because that's where we found his body. So he's the only band member to die on 9/11, so that in that corner, that's where they found him. That's why they sing the Wild Rover after they pass around the whiskey at nighttime when they play at dusk by that memorial. So, that's when they do that. And, that's why they sing the Wild Rover. Even at the band party on St. Patrick's Day, they always sing the Wild Rover as a tribute to him. Football team does the same exact thing after every win or loss, and they still do it to this day. You watch them, they just won in Dallas again this weekend. They're undefeated under Coach Cameron Pete from Rescue 2. 2 years running. They're going their third year being undefeated.
The coach. I see him on Instagram.
And, him and Vinny Sheeta and Stevie Orr doing a great job, with that team and just keep reloading and winning. And, after every win or loss, they sing the Wild Rover, so, and it's awesome. Like, again, those traditions, that culture continues on, and the football team is like the ultimate potpourri of guys on the FDNY. You have everybody. You have, and you see all these guys, and they all take it so seriously. Every make, model, color, they just all sing the Wild Rover, and just, always remember that with Bronco. And that's the amazing thing about all of it, It just had such a lasting tradition, all this time later, it's still going strong. That was his rookie show, Bronco's rookie show, when he came on the football team, was singing that. And he got everyone all into it, and that's how it started. Yeah.
My visual memory of him is going to a high angle job with him one time, and he gets out of the rig, and you know the red helmets that we had?
Yeah.
It looked like a friggin' walnut on top of his head. It was so small.
I think I remember that.
Yeah.
It looked like a peanut on a
peanut
walnut,
on top
right?
of his head.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, he was 6'3", 300 pounds.
I
you
know.
And
Exactly.
his arms were probably 3 times the size of mine.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that guy do like the reduced profile or something, right? Trying to squeeze through like,
Oh, yeah.
He would take the whole wall down, bro.
Yeah, he would take the wall
He'd
down.
do the
that's right.
Kool-Aid coming in, Kool-Aid.
He'd be the guy you'd point to. If that guy can do the run, anybody can do the run.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
You know?
Yep.
That it's the will, right? He had the will to do it. You
Yep.
know, like if a 300-pounder can get out there and do, an offensive lineman can get out there and do it, man. He wanted that job bad.
You said at the beginning, right? If you want something bad enough, you go get it. That's what I tell my kids all the time.
Yep, absolutely.
So how'd you like Ladder 11? Because they did some work down there on the Lower East Side, man.
Yeah, Ladder 11 was great. You know, I got down there, like I said, November of 2001. So they had lost 6 firefighters. So it was a very, I didn't know them. So I was, like I said, I was UFO on 147. My father was the Manhattan Borough Commander. He said to me, Mike, I need some bodies, some lieutenants down in Manhattan. Will you come in and work in Manhattan? So, I mean, obviously, my father was a tremendous, human being to me my entire life. Incredible father, like, my number one hero. So what am I going to say? Dad, I'd rather stay in Brooklyn. What, Dad, whatever you need, and he gave us a list of companies. My brother had rotated through Ladder 3. So he went back to Ladder 3 because they had lost a tremendous amount of firefighters. And I went down to Ladder 11, and then I took the captain's test about 3 months later, was at the top of that list. So I only got to be there for about a year and a half. Just a tremendous group of individuals down there, Richie Olson, Mike Pignataro, and just trying to pick up the pieces down there. They had the famous picture of I think it was Mike Keogh running up the stairs at 28,
Right.
getting out. Then getting out of there alive and hearing their stories, and just the incredible amount of people who were on the Lower East Side and would come to visit the Firehouse every day. And, it just was a crazy time down there.
It has to be hard for you coming in there because you don't know the families and stuff, right? So you
you don't know the families. I was
Yeah.
coming in from socks, so that scared people. People like, oh, this guy's going to come in here and, tear it apart. But I would like to think at the end of all of it, that you left it better than you found it, and I had a great experience there. Learned a lot. In Ladder 175, we didn't do, or Rescue 4, we didn't do a whole lot of elevator work. When I got to Ladder 11, they have a lot of projects on the Lower East Side there. So I learned all elevators and what was to come for the later part of my career in Ladder 4 and in the 9th Battalion, where you really do elevators. But you learn all of that down there and project work. And so it was a different type of work down there. Just an up-and-coming neighborhood at that time on the Lower East Side. So, and just a phenomenal group of individuals. They call that the West Point of Manhattan. I think they used to call like 105 the West Point of Brooklyn.
West
Right.
Point. Yeah.
And 28 and 11 was like, if you had a problem with anyone, you would just say a word to one of the senior men.
It was
It
taken
was
care of.
handled. Next day,
Yeah.
taken care of. Like you didn't have to
Right.
lift a finger to really get them to do the right thing. They were just a bunch of do the right thing type of guys,
Hey, Coobs, I worked in 175 a lot as a lieutenant, and I would get their elevator bag. I'd have to go like this. So when he went to 11 truck and he started to learn about elevators, he wasn't kidding.
That's for sure. That's for sure. I was like, all I knew about elevators was what I studied.
Yeah.
What I read in the book.
175 was perfect, like perfect spot, no projects.
That wasn't the
103 Yeah,
that wasn't the first thing we were showing anyone in 175 when they came in.
103,
Yeah, you got the roof. Yeah,
When-
here's the
When
elevator.
the
bag.
adjoining company they call 12 Otis, and you're not doing any of it, like it's it's perfect. You know what I mean?
Who'd you run out the most with down in 175?
I probably caught the most work with, believe it or not, 236 and 107.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to, that for whatever reason, the years I was there, we caught a tremendous amount of work up that way. For what it just was we'd see Ron Zoni, who's one of your famous guys,
Ron Zoni.
all the time in 107. So 107 we had the tiller, so we could manage those tight streets But 107 had the big tower ladder. It was like a hog. They're doing like K-turns everywhere. We're zipping right past them, probably aggravating them to no end,
we zip out with Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, and then once in a while you catch something up by 176 or over by 120 and 103. So it was good stuff. You catch and work no matter which way you went, but mostly that way. That's what I'd say the majority of my work was.
So when you became captain, did you bounce or you went right to ladder 4?
No, now again, I know it sounds like a crazy story, right?
There it comes, Roof. Hold on a minute. Hold on.
First day as a captain. First day as a captain. I walked in the door.
Yes,
No, this was different because it was after 9/11, so everybody was moving and getting promoted. So there was like a circulating door by 2003. So I walked into ladder 4. First day, again, I knew people who worked there from the football team and from, doing all the stuff around the job. And Ray Ziegler was the captain. He meets me at the door. He's in, ABCing in the 9th Battalion that day. I worked the day tour with him. At night, he comes back down to the office to relieve me. He's working a night tour. He said, Mike, how would you like to, work here? I'm going to chief school on Saturday. Why don't you take the UFO spot here? And so I was like, yeah. So I'll give it a shot. Why not? Like you said, I don't have to bounce. I don't have to cover. I didn't know if I was going to have to be used to that.
I don't see any bouncing in this thing, Roof, anywhere. You know what I mean?
I just like everyone. I had to bounce.
Bouncing. You know what I mean? Bouncing.
So
you bounce right into the chairs where you bounce. Oh, look at me. I'm counting of 4.
So I was trying to go back to SOC at that point. I was going to go back as a captain. I had called Chief Norman, who was the chief of SOC at the time. And he said, I don't have anything open for you, but I'll get back to you as soon as I do. And so I took the UFO spot. About a week later, John called me up and he was like, hey, we're going to bring you back to SOC. And I'm like, well, I can't really do that, Chief, because, I took the UFO spot in ladder 4 and, they had lost 15 firefighters on 9/11, chiefs, captain, lieutenant, so I'm like, there's no way I'm leaving this place. And obviously everything happens for a reason, right? I mean, I went to ladder 4 there, and then I came back and as a chief in the 9th and wound up working 16 years there in Times Square. So obviously everything worked out for a reason.
I didn't know you were there that long. Wow.
Yeah, I loved it there. I absolutely loved it there.
That's a crazy area because you got people coming by that front door all the time, man, right?
It's an experience, man. Everything that you read about, everything that you go to, like every fire that you read about and studied, you see it there. I mean, I had the private dwelling stuff and the row frames in Brooklyn and in Rescue 4, but there's nothing like, going to fires in Midtown Manhattan. I mean, you name it. It's large scale and it's everybody's filming you and everyone's watching you and and especially right after 9/11, forget about it. You get people from all over the world, which was always an incredible part to me was just how the people would stop by the Firehouse there and want to take your picture and want to take their picture with you and just people would come in crying all the time, thanking us, for everything that happened on 9/11. And it just put it to a whole different stratosphere.
I always say, I don't know how those guys, that is a tough house watch, man. It's just nonstop. It has to be nonstop.
They do the same thing with you at trade shows, right, Louis? They come up, they cry, they just want a picture. Just want a picture. Come on.
It's got to be nonstop. Like
it is nonstop. You have celebrities coming through there nonstop. You had, you name it, like political people coming through there nonstop.
There was a couple of celebrities. Who'd you meet over there?
John Travolta was my favorite out of all.
Really? Cool.
He was great. Joaquin Phoenix wound up riding with us for like 48 hours.
Oh, Ladder 49, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, when now Ladder 49 came out, Travolta was incredible. He went and called up everybody's wife, girlfriend, like you name it. Really? He got on the phone with them, and he was just such a genuine human being. Like you had Obama who had lunch there. We get the Cardinal in there for lunch, for dinner. Like, it's just that Firehouse. Everyone, you name it, they've come through there at some point. Yeah, and some people are more genuine than others, and that's the most amazing part. Like, that some people can be so genuine and just really pour their heart out to you, and they just really appreciate everything that they're seeing. Because it really is. It's you walk around that firehouse, it's like a museum. Same thing as the 10 house. Like you walk around just the pieces and the relics, and everyone comes by, and you have the theater district right there. So I always say everyone passes through those two firehouses, the 10 house and also ladder 54 and 4. Yep. Everyone and their mother comes through there, like to go to a show, to see different stuff. You
got everything. It's right there.
Yeah, everything. Every movie walking by at night. If you were sitting out in front, every theater person stops by and would say hello and come hang out, and it just was pretty incredible. Just the people you met and the folks that you saw, and then the part there too is that you're doing in the 9th Battalion doing 6,000 runs, and in 4th truck you're doing 5,000 runs, 54 you're doing the same amount. So you're running in between all that, like we're talking about. You're running and you're running and you're running, and you're doing 35, 36 runs a tour some nights, especially if it was like a thaw day where once the ice went away, or if they did a snow melt, you're going from manhole to manhole, and that's always the people in Manhattan.
My worst run is a manholes. Was the worst run, man.
I hate the
people in Manhattan aren't scared. If it's blocking their entrance, they're going down that block anyway. You try to tell them, it's probably not a good idea. That thing weighs like 300 pounds.
Yeah,
it's up in the air.
What's your question, Mikey? You look like you want to ask a question.
I do. Naturally, for any fire officer, you're constantly doing size ups, you're constantly doing pre-planning, but this is the most unique area perhaps in the world. Anywhere in New York City is unique, but right in the heartbeat of the city, where, as you said, so many tourists are coming in. That's another layer to it. Forget the buildings. It's the foot traffic. It's the construction that's going on. For you, besides the obvious answer post 9/11 in terms of terrorism, every fire officer since 2001 is worried about that. What were the scenarios in your head that gave you pause that you really wanted to focus on in drills in regards to your time in 54 and 4?
You did have to worry about terrorism, right? Terrorism was a big part of it, right? Because that was a whole thing. Like when Coobs and Louie and myself came on, terrorism was a class we took for a day or two, and that was it. 93 kind of awakened that at the first Trade Center bombing, and then the second Trade Center obviously now escalated it to a whole nother level, and you did have to always worry about that aspect of it. You went down on a run in the subway, something was happening down there, you needed to make sure that you had that. Any building that we went into, it's a cruise ship standing up, right? So you would have to do mass evacuations, and especially after 9/11, one of the most dangerous things in those high-rise buildings are the stairwells and the smoke going up the stairwells. Right. And the heat and smoke going up those stairwells. How many people have died at like the Macaulay Culkin fire over there, and other ones where people die on the floors above, where if they would just shelter in place, they would be safe. But people wanted to self-evacuate after 9/11. So it became a huge issue of us getting up and folks getting down the stairs because you couldn't get up or down, because everybody, as soon as they smelt that smoke, they were out of that building. They wanted out of that structure in the worst way.
Right.
So that part of it became very challenging, as you're going about and doing that.
The city was still jittery for years after 9/11, man. Everybody was jittery. The city, forget it. So.
Yeah. Any smell of smoke, people were trying to get out of that building.
Yep.
And then sometimes that's the most dangerous area. And in the high-rise occupancies, not the high-rise office buildings, but in the high-rise occupancy, multiple dwelling, we don't have no way of communicating with those folks. At least in a high-rise business, we could tell you it's only floor 7 and 8 or 41, 42 we're worried about. If you're above those floors, stay where you are, don't come down. Where in a high-rise residential, we don't have that ability to communicate. That's the one thing I wish that would be in the fire prevention law, would be some way. We don't need two-way communication, but some way to communicate with the people.
Yeah, right. To let them know, stay where you're at, right, or whatever.
Stay where you're at. Because we would save people throughout the city. Yeah. By not doing that,
Mikey, let's go back to some of those pictures, because I'm sure we passed a lot of pictures. We got some in there. Let's just
do. Yep. Actually, since we're on the subject of 54 and 4, here's a great one from 30 Rock.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, this is like one of the perks of working in Midtown Manhattan, right? You have the Christmas tree, and this was a Christmas Eve we were all making, and obviously, the Firehouse becomes your family on Christmas Eve. So, this was on our way to St. Patrick's Cathedral to go to Christmas Eve Mass. We stopped by and got our picture down there, and, right by the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, and that's everybody who was working for the tour. And again, you just try to make it as special as possible, right? So, that's some of the stuff we got to do over there that most companies would die to do, right?
Yep.
To get a chance to go do that.
Hey, Chief, was Dave Turner in 54 at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll tell you, funny, before we get to this picture, if you go back to the last one.
Sure. Hold on.
That was 30 Rock, which is right there. That was my first fire as a chief, as an ABC. and there's a great story behind that one, too. It was almost like a fire tech scenario where, I have a probie driving me, and we get a call for a fire on the 26th floor. We get in there, and then as soon as we pull up, and I couldn't believe it. I was lieutenant about a week and a half ago. Now I'm an ABC in the 9th Battalion. And I'm going, holy cow, I'm the chief today. And my first run, we go out. It's like 6:20. We pull up in front of 30 Rock, and I look in the door, and I see everybody scrambling, like inside, like the fire safety director and the engineers. And I'm going, oh man, this is a job. What the hell do I do? And I go inside. They're like, yeah, we have a sprinkler activated up on the 26th floor. So I call outside, and I'm like, hey, give a 1076 for a fire on the 26th floor. The probie who was driving that night, he is 1026. So he gives a 1026 over the air. 54 and 4 go up. They're fighting this fire up there on the 26th floor. And finally, a little while later, Rescue 1 comes in, and Tony Taraboki is working in Rescue 1, and we were promoted to flips together, as lieutenants. So Tony comes in, he goes, Mike, your aide gave a 1026. And I'm like, oh my God. So then we had to give a 1076, get everybody in there because they had a pretty good fire condition up on that 26th floor. So and then by the time everyone came in, it was already pretty much put out. But the Buffs all love it too, because like that one particular fire, I gave exposure 3 as the Christmas tree.
That worked.
Did you do that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I used to like to have some fun with stuff like that, Like I used to always say, like, if we got relocated when I was in ladder 11, I'd be like, if we were going into Brooklyn, the 108, we relocate there a lot. I'd be like, leaving the land of high rise for the borough of churches or the borough of fire, So some of the dispatches just get a kick out of that.
Yeah, Mikey.
All right, and next one we'll go back to is Bradford Street.
Yeah, this is we call this picture 4 Mikes and a Larry. That's Larry Weston, Mike Perrone, Mike Delina, Mike McLaughlin, and myself after a fire down there in East New York. Just a tremendous amount. Weston was a Rescue 2 guy who came over to us, and Mike Perrone, Mike Delina was in my study group, along with Joe Callan, Tom Brown, Gary Valia. So we had a great study group all the way up to chief. We studied out at the Baldwin Volley House. And this is just another one of those times when probably my favorite time on the job, because it was just so much fun. This is when bunker pants first came in, right? When I first came on, we were wearing still the pull-up boots, the jacket, and the helmet, which seems like a million years ago, right? Like you can't even remember that time, but that's where we were at during that, So these guys were the guys in my groups that I worked with the most, probably my whole career. Over there on 175.
Look like an old Mac in the back there. An old Mac.
There's a couple of cool
I love
photos.
those old Mac fire trucks. It was nothing like those old Macs.
There's a couple of cool photos regarding a collapse in the Bronx, and you can paint the picture for us.
Yeah, so this is a collapse in the Bronx a couple of months ago. This is like me doing my job as the chief of safety, right? Getting in there, working together in order to, we thought we had someone we had on video, on camera. We thought we had, somebody buried underneath all the rubble. The NYPD came up to us with footage to show us somebody walking right underneath there when it happened. Thankfully, at the end of the day, they weren't underneath there. But this is just the collection of all of us coming in there and really doing it. One of the things that's always the toughest part is, as a chief of safety or any chief officers, we have the one amazing part of our job that's continued from when I started in 1991 to now. Just so many can-do people and want to do people. People want to do work. And, we have to protect our firefighters from themselves because they want to do work so much. and that's a great problem to have as far as, being on this job and people wanting to go to work and wanting to do the job. So that's a tremendous asset that the FDNY has, that ability to want to work. And I haven't seen that wane at all in the 32 and a half years I've been on. So, that's still going and still going strong.
Well, what do we say, Coombs, all the time? You're muted, Kev.
Me and Louis say all the time, like, especially if you hear a job, you hear like 103, we're available. 107, we're available, right? But you'll never hear a sanitation guy call, yeah, we're available for another block of garbage.
Right.
We'll pick it up,
Yeah. We have people, it's always amazing. We have people taking up from one fire to go to another fire.
Yeah.
Right. They're still exhausted from one.
You would never, unless people could really see or hear that, like people, guys fighting to get into more, to do more, like to do, constantly do more, like in the FDNY. It's incredible. I'm glad that you feel like it's not.
We're all trying to get in there, trying to get to work, and
everywhere. It was the same anywhere.
You first, not in a bad way, but there's a gentleman, Burrow, and we all. I grew up in Brooklyn, so in Brooklyn we were like trying to get in there, and like you said, we'll kill each other to get to work. Like we would run over each other's backs in order to get in there and get the job done. Just to get in and running into a burning building.
That is a good problem to have.
Save someone,
Yeah. How many guys can you fit in the apartment roof?
At least 5 more.
At least 5 more, baby.
That was the squad motto.
Yeah.
But that was the thing I wanted to ask you, Chief. It feels like for a safety chief, especially supervising, as you said, other firefighters that have such a tremendous drive, you're fighting against that common instinct because you want to go in there. No matter what the situation is, it's your job to go in there. But tactics have changed. Buildings have changed. Construction's ever evolving.
Questions
in New York City, especially in the 21st century. So for you, as things stand in 2024, more buildings are being built, more equipment's being added to the fire service. It's a lot to keep up with. What are your main concerns with safety of firefighters nowadays? And also, second part of the question, what do you think has changed the most that has really improved firefighting safety in the 21st century?
Well, I think, again, I would think the advent of bunker gear, right, would be the number one thing that probably has helped the FDNY and probably the entire country, right? We used to have bunker gear cut down on burns a tremendous amount, right? I mean, I was just over at, Engine 24 and 5, where they had the Watt Street fire, for the 30th anniversary of the Watt Street fire, where John Drennan, had passed away, and then 2 other firefighters, Young and Seidenberg. They had all passed away at that fire. And, that was really for us, the impetus for the city to finally get us bunker gear, right? Before that, we didn't have bunker gear. We had the pull-up boots, the coat, and the helmet, no hood, and gloves, right? That was what we wore.
The Volleys had it before we had it.
What's that?
The Volleys had it before we had
time.
it.
They had some of the Volleys used to come in wearing that stuff, and so those 3 men had to perish, in order to really get Rudy Giuliani to buy us, and then the city to buy us bunker gear. And you just think back to it, like everything that we do. So you talk about that with research and development and safety. The city never comes to us and says, hey, we have this, I heard there's this new PPE out there, and, or this new tool. This is going to save firefighters. It's up to firefighters to bring it to our attention. It's up to R&D to go out there and research it, and bring it into the pilot phase, where we're going to look at it for 9 months and use it and evaluate it, in order before we put it out there on the street, because, people say stuff is unbreakable all the time when you go to these conferences, and the FDNY finds a way to break it, this unbreakable stuff, or this gear that will never rip or tear. We find a way to rip or tear it within like 1 or 2 months. Our guys are just gung ho. So that, I would say bunker gear has been the biggest advent. And now with bunker gear, right, that brings a whole nother slew of just different things now with the IAFF and PFAS, and, what are we trying to do to protect ourselves from that? You have that PFAS part of it, which we've eliminated from 2 out of our 3 layers in our bunker gear. From that, now we're doing lithium ion battery studies. How does that affect us? How does that get into our blood? Because again, as firefighter cancer has grown in the world of safety, right, we want to combat that, right? Because that's one of the number 1 killers, heat exhaustion and cancer, are the two things taking out, firefighters: heat exhaustion, leading to heart issues, and cancer. So we want to try to eliminate those as best we can. And that's why they have great conferences all over the country. And one of them being down in Fierro, where, they have all the scientists come in. We have 9 or 10 different universities working on firefighter safety throughout the country on PFAS, lithium ion. Is it entering through absorption? Is it inhalation? All the different routes that it takes into our body. How can we counter effect it? What do we need to do in order to combat that? Because again, every officer who comes in, every firefighter who comes in, I always ask, what's your number one priority today? And it's safety of everybody that they're working with, right? And we want everyone to go home in the condition they came in. And we've all gone to way too many funerals now between, being on the job and the line of duty deaths that occur, and then, the cancer ones add to it. So just, again, like we want to try to eliminate it, even if it's 20 years down the road. If I can play a small part in that, even though I won't see that success, I think that that's somewhere that, I'd like to be a small part of, and I'll just take the credit up in heaven someday when I'm up there, and not have to know if we could save a family from going through that.
Well, all firemen go to heaven anyway, Chief. So I don't know.
That's my whole theory has always been. I want to just be able to get to heaven and say, I'm one up. I'm one up, God.
Good for you. Let's do some more pictures, Mikey, because I know we got a lot of them. I like looking at pictures here before we get into the... Yes,
we have one from Katrina.
Turns into the big chief.
Yeah, so this is down in Hurricane Katrina. This was our incident management team's first deployment. We wound up down at Hurricane Katrina like 2 days after the levees gave, and we wound up working in conjunction with the New Orleans Fire Department. So this is the furthest fire I've ever fought, was down there working on the incident management team. That's John Belnavis, who was a chief in the 9th Battalion. You had myself. I was the captain of Ladder 4 at that time. Jimmy Manahan, who was a staff, who was one of our staff chiefs in operations, and George Collin, who was the captain of Ladder 11 at this time. I think he was a chief in the 16th Battalion up then. And this was our first 9/11 away from home in 2006. And, this was Bobby Fraumini from Ladder 147, and his team built this memorial down there to celebrate this. So we were in Camp Algiers, is what they called it. The entire department had to live within New Orleans, the New Orleans Fire Department. So every one of them, their whole families, everyone's house, everything was ruined. So when we got down there, the fire department was completely decimated, trying to move their families out and trying to do those type of things. So we would have one New Orleans firefighter stay on our rig. We brought down 300 of our firefighters, and we managed them like, we were the dispatch and the planning, and we were the FDOC and the firefighters on the apparatus going down there and trying to keep everybody safe. As far as, lingos are not the same from department to department as you learn as you're down there. I remember we're calling a Mayday, everybody out of a couple of fires we were in, and who came out, all the FDNY guys. Who didn't come out was a New Orleans guy. So then we had to go through the safety briefings and the operation briefings. Yeah, to explain that.
Oh, damn right, I ordered the code red.
It was a little bit of a mess when we first got down there. It was our first deployment as a team ever. We got down there, and bamboo buckets were coming down. People were shooting at you by the levees. You had, the New Orleans was just completely overwhelmed.
That's crazy, man.
With being flooded, and it just was. You wake up in the morning, we're on the only high ground, and you would wake up and look into the city. Look down into the city, because New Orleans is basically built in a bathtub, and you would look down into the city, and it was like pick your fire. The rigs would pull up on, jump on, and we had to make sure we had everyone accounted for, and all their firehouses were flooded, and we had to repair that. And we wound up sending 3 waves of folks down there. So we wound up operating in New Orleans for about, I would say, 2 months. The FDNY, working in conjunction with them. So it was a great experience, and still a lot of guys have a lot of connections down there to this day.
Pulled that one up prematurely, but this was a storefront fire. I pulled it up a little bit too early.
This is when I was in the 9th Battalion. Just a storefront fire here in a old law tenement. Just some of the stuff that we used to deal with in Manhattan there that reminded me of more of my Brooklyn days, right? You got the portable ladders up, hose line stretch. You had the store fires. We'd get a tremendous amount of fires in a lot of these structures in Manhattan because of the duct fire. There would be fire in the ducts, and then it would extend out of the ducts into the structure of the building. So we'd wind up a tremendous amount. Sometimes you would be in like, a steakhouse like Gallagher's. Like one time I remember they had a pipe freeze, and that whole meat locker that you see in front of Gallagher's Steakhouse with probably $1 million worth of meat cured, the pipes leaking down into there, and you're like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was like could feed a whole encampment for a month.
Good beef.
Doesn't sound too good. We had this photo up earlier, but you can expand on it. You were in the middle of a story, so you couldn't. It's the family.
Yeah, so that's my father in the middle as Manhattan Borough Commander. My brother Greg to his left. If you're looking at it, me all the way on the right. My brother Dennis on the left. My brother Harry, who was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, on the left. My father was instrumental on the wall in 10 and 10 as the Manhattan Borough Commander at that time, helping design and helping get that wall put up on 10 and 10. That was actually the first monument down at Ground Zero. So that was the last thing he had done before he left the department. And that was his thing. If that wall was put up by the guys from 10 and 10, Manhattan Borough, the 1st Division, behind that wall is a bunch of signatures of everyone who helped put that wall up. That wall represents everybody who died on the FDNY, from trucks to ladders to engines. Just an incredible, something that was left by my father, an incredible legacy to leave. Like I said, going from the late 60s in the South Bronx, to Manhattan, and just an amazing legacy to leave. An amazing career that he had.
He aged out, Chief?
No, he left, I think, about a year before he aged out.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
80. He's 80 down in Hilton Head, South Carolina, loving life.
I think we got to get a show with the Meyers boys on.
Him and my mom on there.
All the Meyers boys.
He never went and did an ounce of work after he left either. He said,
good for him. Right up Ruffy's alley.
I'm good. I'm done.
Go fishing. That's it, man.
Marine Corps, from the Marine Corps to,
wow,
all that stuff on. So
he was a Marine too.
Yeah,
Marine. Yeah, we got to get him on.
Yeah.
What else you got, Mikey?
Just a couple more. More. We have one. I know this was New Year's Eve because he always does the New Year's Eve show, and that's with Mr. Seacrest here.
Yeah, Ryan Seacrest, and that's Pete Conti and Pat Brady from Ladder 4. Again, like working that event, I used to kid around with everyone, and everyone would be like, "Hey, what are you doing for New Year's Eve?" I did 17 of these. So I used to say, I'm having a little party with 1 million of my closest friends. And we would work that, have alarm teams, because obviously you couldn't get apparatus in and out of there. So just these events are so massive and so large. We'd have to have walking teams and alarm teams and pre-staged apparatus in case we wound up having anything in there, which we did a couple times with some of the fireworks going off the sides of the buildings and whatnot. They would wind up starting some fires in other places. So just always an amazing experience being down there, and always just working with everyone. And I hate to say that if I was in one of the pens, I'd have a different feeling. I had free movement to and from.
I was just gonna say, we as a squad, we used to go down there too, and I think I was down there 2 or 3 times actually in a row. And when those guys are in those pens for 10 hours, drinking all day or whatever, what happens after that, and they can't really go anywhere. So it's a pretty interesting situation.
Oh yeah, they're at the mercy of the cops guarding that pen. That's what they're at the mercy of that police officer guarding that pen.
Might be a lot of squatting going on. I don't know.
Yeah, for us it was magical. It was because
right. You could walk around.
Again, you had celebrities. You could go anywhere or do whatever. I think you had the one picture of me and my daughter on. That was the first New Year's Eve I got to spend with my daughter. In Times Square. Got to get her up on stage with the Jonas Brothers.
Really?
Yeah. So for Times Square New Year's Eve, her and her cousin. So that was like a great experience for her. After being there so many years, it just was. Again, I finally got to hang out with her on a New Year's Eve. And that was awesome.
That's got to put you up at the hierarchy of dads right there, bro, on stage with the Jonas Brothers. Come on.
Yeah. This was this fire right here. This was when I was chief of safety. That's my first aide, Jimmy Walsh. On my right, he's a lieutenant covering around in the 14th Division now. And this is at the collapse in Queens, where one of our firefighters was trapped again. The units came in, did a tremendous job of getting them out, and just the fire just growing after that collapse, spreading to the wiring and everything else, and just causing mayhem all around. And not the easiest jobs to be the chief of safety at when you have a brother who's trapped in a collapse, and you're trying to again keep our members safe, knowing again you can't reduce all risk, but you're trying to eliminate as much risk as you can and let us do what we do, right, in order to help save especially one of our own. So you just have to really, really,
that is a tough job, man.
Look at it from different angles, and especially for myself, because I knew nothing about safety, until I got the job as chief of safety. Like basically, I got promoted to deputy. They were like, "Hey, you want to get promoted?" I said, "Yeah." And they were like, "All right, you're going to be our chief of safety." And I'm like, "Really?" Like, I'd never even worked in safety before. And, thank God for my brother and like Jimmy Canty, who were good friend, a good friend of mine. And, they were like, Doug Gerd was the battalion commander over there at the time. And, I had Danny Melia, another good friend of mine who was a captain at 233.
The guy doesn't want to come on the show. We see
him
at the dinner.
We'll get him on. We'll get Melia on. Yeah, we'll get him on. Mr. PBI. And that's Danny Youngston and Jimmy Canty there. And, again, it's just a matter of, again, just working from a totally different angle, from that and looking at that from that safety perspective. But these guys are just incredible. Just how they come
tell Youngston to stand up. Oh, wait, he is not.
Oh, is that a short joke? Take it easy.
He's a 103
But
guy.
just looking at it from that safety aspect, never easy when you come from the world of operations. But I think it's better to have someone who's been through operations and understands it. That way, You're not just trying to, because every safety officer, if you go to a safety class, they try to say, stop the operation, unsafe. And we unfortunately can't do that, right? We have a job we have to do, but we want everyone to go home safe at the end of the day. So sometimes I have to make people unhappy at these jobs, and I'm like, all right, we got to stand back, or we got to do this, or come up with different protocols. But everybody on the staff, from John Espo to Jack Hodgins, who's the chief of department, and Kevin Woods, and everybody's incredibly safety conscious. John Sirocco, who's the Bronx Borough commander who studied with me, everybody brings that in. They have to listen to my rants at every staff meeting on Thursdays, and just trying to go over how we can do things better.
Brothers aren't doing.
We're always trying to implement it. Yeah. They'll say that I'm a little loquacious at some of those meetings.
Loquacious.
But, have
Mike,
the whole stuff to talk about. You know what I mean? So the operations is easy. Yeah, we put the fire out. We went home. Everything was great, and then we have to talk about.
He's got the cool stuff, right? You got to talk about the guys didn't do this at this job, and they should have done this with this.
Yeah,
job.
exactly.
Is your office in Metro Tech now?
Yeah, I'm right next to John Espo. So right between John Espo and Kevin Woods, and right near Chief Malcolm, who also gets to go to all those fourth alarms and better with me. From the chief of SOC.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to catch up to me. Since 2018, I've gone to the most multiples probably out of all the staff chiefs, with always being on fourth alarm duty. So Malcolm, he's doubling me up now. He's trying to catch up since he came onto staff. He's at everything, and he gets in quick. So I've gotten to see a lot of good work.
Guy. That's why not house guy.
We just had a great fifth alarm fire the other day, and up in the Bronx, where he came in and he ran the exposure 3 sector, did a great job. So I'm Queens. I'm sorry. It was in Brooklyn, Bushwick, Brooklyn. I get confused sometimes.
He's all over the place. You know what borough he's in. He's doing multiple here, multiple there.
Yeah, it's great. You get, that's what's great about the job as chief of safety and fourth alarm duty. You get to go all over the whole city, and I get to see the brothers and sisters operate in every borough. What's incredible, like Louis, what you were saying before, roll frames. Brooklyn is incredible at roll frames. Queens and Staten Island do an amazing job at both taxpayers and private dwellings, where, Manhattan does a phenomenal job in high rise. And then there's nobody who's going to match, the Bronx as far as H types and especially in top floor and H types. In Queens, it's going to a fifth alarm. In the Bronx, it's like barely a second sometimes. They just know how to do it, and certain type of buildings and structures. But no matter where you go, no matter what borough, no matter what numbers are on the rigs, everybody's given everything they have. Like, every fire I've ever been in, every firehouse I've ever been at. So, you just learn so much as you're going around.
Do you go around and visit the firehouses? Or?
Yeah, especially when I have the citywide tour command. I like to go stop in, especially firehouses I've never worked in. I like to go in there and stop in there and just talk about a lot of the stuff, because we have research and development underneath us in safety command. So we're always putting new gear out there, new tools, asking them what they've seen, how do they like it, how do they not like it, just different things that are coming up. We have Safety Week every year. Two of our most successful programs. We're getting to know your bunker gear. Again, I always just put stuff on and went into fires and trusted people knew what they were doing. Like people like Danny Amelia, who came before me, and the guys in research and development who came before me. And then, those guys, and then just put it on and went into fires. So you're always testing that stuff out, seeing what the newest, latest, and greatest is, working with the manufacturers. We're a big enough department, right? It's the biggest fire department in the country, but we can kind of sway the manufacturers if we think something needs to be changed or updated. We can use our leverage to help the whole country, which is what we're trying to do. We had an accident intersection program that was incredibly successful. We had fire truck hitting fire truck, ambulance hitting fire truck hitting ambulance. And again, we've been able to kind of reduce that. And now I think one of the big things we're doing this year is, again, after the firefighter Klein fire, again, is the low intake, high exhaust fire. Last year we had, in a year and a half span, we had 3 private dwelling fires heavily impacted by wind, where we've had 1 firefighter die in the line of duty, 3 careers end, and over 2,900 man hours lost. Right, so that's going to be our safety week this year. And again, just trying to teach folks about that wind-driven fire isn't only in a high-rise, isn't only in a tenement, isn't only in Manhattan or some of the other buildings in Rockaway along the beach. You can get that in a private dwelling, and some of the stuff that's going to come out of that, I think, will really help save firefighters' lives again here in New York. And I think UL and a couple other our partners can take that and help people around the country with that.
All right, Darren. Why is this? Is the R&D still down at Fort Totten?
Yeah, they got the best building in the world right there. Right on the bay.
Yeah. What do you think is the most exciting or promising product that they're testing out now? Like, what really catches you?
I think there's 2 things really going to come out probably almost simultaneously, right? For us, our SCBAs were purchased in 2004. So we're at the end of our cycle with these SCBAs. We can't upgrade them anymore. So, with the 2024 NFPA standard coming out, I think that new SCBA is going to be pretty phenomenal for us as far as the technology. It's going to bring us to the front of the building, which also brings other problems with operations of how do we manage those technologies if we have the ability to see how much air is in cylinders.
You could see how much people have in their bottles?
Yeah, you can see how much they have in their bottles.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so you'll be able to pull people out based on that, on the alarms, be able to tell if any past alarms are going off, and then also victim tracking, not victim tracking, but firefighter tracking. So, that's the software. That's like the holy grail right now. If you go around any of these conferences, everyone's trying to come up with how do we track. They can do the same level. They just can't do the Z-axis, which is telling you what level they're on. So
they've been working on that for a while, though.
It's very difficult to do in buildings, as you're going around doing that. Very, very difficult to do. So, and again, especially for us, because we have 200 or 300 people operating at a fifth alarm, or like the other one in Brooklyn the other day. The fifth alarm was really an eighth by the time we brought in relief, and how many different units you have coming in there at different times and managing those units. And, basically any other fire department would be overwhelmed. We're blessed with, a tremendous amount of resources in the city.
Manpower.
We could just keep reloading and sending them at you, where most departments, if they have an all hands or a second alarm, they're taxed, right? They're calling in their mutual aid partners. drones.
You're going to need a college degree to figure out all those guys. Like
listen, he's got plenty of training over here, bro. I just pull this thing up.
No, I'm saying, who's the guy who's keeping track of all the like everybody's like that's incredible.
Well, yeah, because like you think about it, okay, you got this technology. Now you got to have someone to manage it. Because
right, exactly.
If someone should die because they run out of air, right. What's the first thing the lawyers are going to say to you is,
right, where's that managing that? Yeah, who's got on top of that?
Well, the deputies have a backup aide now, right? So they have an aide and a backup aide. So it's another guy.
Yeah, and that's what it's the drone technology. We just did a presentation in front of the city council on PPE and gear, and drone was some of the stuff. And it's incredible. Like I remember I was in one of my leadership classes somewhere along the way where they said, in order to stay relevant in society, you have to change 1% to 2% a year. And I think back to 32 years ago, has the job changed, between 34 and 64%? And it probably really has, like everything that we're doing and whatnot. Like, so, and that drone technology, we used to have to go by somebody's explanation. Like when you say I have heavy smoke pushing out of, the cockle off, what does that mean? Right? It means different things to different people. And as a chief, you're painting this picture in front of the building and you're waiting for the air recon who's coming from Floyd Bennett Field, right? Hours away, where now we get drone technology in there with thermal scans and infrared and, high def pictures. Now it's like it takes all the guesswork out of it. As a staff chief coming in, as a citywide tour commander, I'm looking at that as I'm coming in, so you have a good idea of tower ladder positioning, where everybody is, what we need to do, what we need to think about. So it's great stuff. That's really been such a game changer for us.
There's so much. I mean, just look at what the chauffeur, with the pro pressure governor, all that. It's almost idiot proof, really. So just that leap in technology for engine chauffeurs is huge.
And that's
when I first got to 175, it's amazing. You get a spare rig and you had to spin down the tormentors. You think about that, and like I feel like being at the academy all weekend at a special operations drill and stuff like that, watching them when I had the citywide. Sometimes I feel like I'm still so young, and you can remember being there when you smell the fake smoke, and you still feel like you're so new at this, when you've been doing it for 32.5 years, So it's incredible. But like I love it, and you still see all this stuff coming in, and it keeps you active, it keeps you fresh, and again, it's incredible just to be part of all that, and to again know that you're going to help someone or save a life down the line, and that's why everybody does the research and development and the safety aspect of it, So,
do you ever say to yourself, like, how did I get this far? Like, how did you ever think to yourself, like we've asked a few chiefs this, like, did you ever think you would move this far up into the FDNY, like after all this time?
I would say no. I mean, again, like you come on with ambition and you wanting to learn, and it just kind of takes you. And then I would say probably like most chiefs will tell you, obviously I'm a little bit of a competitor with football and sports and all that stuff. And, my family has that instilled in us. Right. So, you start taking those tests, you start competing, you want to be at the top of the list. You want to get there. I know my father was like at the top of every list, when he was studying, and so that was just something for us to not to compete with him, but he instilled that drive in us to want to be the best at what we do, and to get to the top as and again, the toughest part was, again, you were having so much fun where you were in most places. It was always heartbreaking when you had to leave. Every company that I've had to leave, like I was definitely not ready to leave each one of them as you left them, right? Like, you still felt like there was more to do there, but again, you have to just solace yourself with, did you leave it better than you found it? And that's what I always wanted to do, was to leave it a little bit better than you found it. And, again, kind of like those senior men passed on to me, right? If you think about your timeline, right? Like, my father had 42 years on, or the senior guy in 175 had 40 years on when I first got there. Right now, he's got my 32. Right now, if I touched a guy at some point in my 32nd year and he does 40 years, the fire department's 158 years old. We have almost like that whole lineage of the entire department of like, meant the stuff that was passed down from one generation to the next that you're still carrying, right? That become your foundation. And that's the part that's always amazing, right? Because you only go back to, the 1860s for the New York City Fire Department. So, you're only 3 steps away from, three generations away from the guys who started this department, the paid department.
Yep. I had a question. I forget the hell I was going to ask. Oh, all right. I know it. If you could go back to any point in your career and just do it over for a while, relive it for a little while, what point would that be?
I think as staff chiefs, we all talk about this all the time because it's just much more fun. Yeah. I would go back to top pay. So I'm not going to lie. I'm a paid mercenary.
I like that. That's
I
a
would
good line.
Back to top pay. I wouldn't go back to before top pay. But I think it, once you were in that, 8 years and 175 at that point, a couple of years in Rescue 4, you're 30 years old, that you're at the prime of the health of your life, playing on the football team for 8 years, then, just the incredible amount of people I met there. And, you're just you're making money now. You finally feel good about yourself. You're always learning, but you're more confident in what you're doing.
More
you have a
comfortable.
few reps in there. It's almost like, when you first play college football, your first year is overwhelming. And then by the time you get to be a junior or a senior, you have all those reps in there. So you just have a lot more familiarization with the system, just like us on the FDNY, the more reps you get. So I would say that point, that's when it was just the most fun. Like, I can remember days in the kitchen or up in the bunk room or out on the rig where you'd have tears coming down from your eyes because you were laughing so hard. And as staff chiefs, I'll tell you, we do talk about this a lot.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. 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 Almost
Chief,
every
I
one
have
of
to
us.
say, I have never laughed in my life like I've laughed in the Firehouse, like with like legitly where you cannot catch your breath, like the funniest things I've ever heard, and sometimes it was always different guy. Yeah. It was just incredibly like a special time. Like I tell guys when I try to get them to come on the show, I'm like, not every time in your career it's great, but it's not those sweet spots, and but when you hit those couple of years in each place or whatever down through your career, like you can't, like you just said, you would go back to that time, right? Like those are sweet spots in your career. And it's just so fun to think back about those times and just laugh. Like even now thinking about some stuff in my head, I'm thinking about laughing, like some things where I could not believe how funny some guys could be, how funny they could be, And
when you miss it, when you're out from the job and you say you really miss the job, all those things come back to your head. Going to the fires and the funny stuff. You don't think about the 8th Class 3 you've been to in a row and the 15th EMS run you've been on. Those things don't come to your mind. It's all the good stuff that you remember. And that's
yeah. We like on Bravest Street, we used to call it "take a beating while you're eating." How much for dinner in the show? You know what I mean? Like you got your mouth broken there. You had the right guys working. Terry Quinn or Kevin Ryan and Jumbo Miller. Like if you had the right guys working, and Kevin Chalkowick. If you had the right guys working, man, you had to learn the art of deflection fast.
You were getting it, yeah.
Oh yeah, Terry Quinn. Like you get those guys going at someone for like a silly mistake or something they said, and it was you had a
like hyenas on a good
it could turn on a dime, bro. It could turn. You're gonna be talking about this guy, and then all of a sudden it's on you. Like, holy shit, how'd that happen, bro?
I know we were talking about in the pre-show about that Tom Brady thing. That was what it was like on.
Oh, the roast! Oh my God, no doubt. And brutal honesty, right? Yeah. It was always brutal honesty. It really was. It was, and that's why I think that's why you're so close. It's because there really is nothing off limits, right, to discuss, and no matter what it was. I think that's really the best part is brutal.
Yeah, you live together, you breathe together, you're laughing together, you're crying together when you go to different funerals, right? Yeah. So that's why it's those bonds that tie us. Very similar to the military, right? That's the same type of thing, right? The guys, from the different eras in the war, who've been to war, right? That same type of thing. That's stuff that really binds us.
Yep.
Yeah, funny shit, man.
What's the little brother doing? He's a deputy now, right?
Yeah, he's a deputy now. He's covering in the 14th Division.
Oh,
the 13th. He's assigned to the 13th. But they're all over the place, like when you're UFO, when you're covering, you know, at least now as a deputy, he's only got 8 places he can work.
Right.
You know,
you tell him I wouldn't know anything about that because I never really
But,
covered anywhere. But
you know, it's been a tremendous run, even with my brother, and he was one of my chiefs in safety in the safety battalion with me. You know, him, Joe McHugh, and Jim Canty. You know, I've gotten to go to fires with my brother Dennis, and you know, gotten to see him do investigations, and you know, again, he's had his own stellar career. You know, coming up, you know, throughout the FDNY, and again, each one of us, as my father Shell told us, pave your own way, right? You know, we didn't work in the same firehouses, and
that's good.
didn't work as the same firehouses as him, so you're really able to pave your own way and forge your own magic. But it was great. Like, you know, the years I got to work together with him in safety will always be special in my heart. You know what I mean? Because getting to work with him, and you know, thankfully we're a close family. We go away during the summer together with all my nephews and nieces, and we rent a big house together or go to an all-inclusive place. So you really get a close bond with them. And you know, my daughter's a musical theater major, so they're always coming to watch my daughter perform. Or
cool.
you know, we're going to their sporting events, you know, to go watch them play their different sports. And you know, again, just love being around them all. And you know, like you said, like that's one thing. Like even though we were competitive, as the similar to, you know, so many guys on this department, you know, we just root for each other. And I was always more nervous when they were playing something or when they were doing something, rather than when I was doing it myself, because I had control of myself, where you didn't have control when they were out there doing it. So.
He gonna go staff, you think? Or?
I don't know. You know, I don't. You know, it's a tough time for staff chiefs right now.
Yeah.
So, I was just going to ask
leave
you.
that on the back burner.
I was going to ask you. So, and I don't know if I could ask this, but what do you see in your future? Where are you heading down the road of the FDNY?
Well, I mean, I have 10 more years left if I want to do it, right? So, when I was at the Rock this weekend, I felt great. Like, you know, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I still feel like my story is still being told. Like, I'm just not ready to go yet. You know what I mean? And that's why sometimes when you see pro athletes with retiring, and people are like, oh, you could retire tomorrow. You have such and such amount of time on. Why don't you just retire? And I just not ready yet. Just not ready yet.
I don't know when it's time.
Still loving what I'm doing. You know, most days I smile. I smiled all weekend. You know, working, you know, coming back from some of those jobs, talking about those jobs, like the crazy stuff, like going back and playing football at 54 years old.
I was going to ask you. That was my next question.
Yeah,
Tell us about going back and playing at 54.
Playing at 54, like going back. And, you know, Tommy Richardson had called me out on a dare that, you know, I looked like I could still play, but could I really still play? And then Paul Mannix, who was a great friend of mine, used to always say, I'm the highest ranking guy to ever play. So I said, oh, yeah? Like, all right. So then that competitive side comes out. I'm like,
how'd that feel the next day?
I'll tell you the truth. I was exhausted after the warm-ups. Like Cameron and Vinny came up to me, and Vinny Sheeta came up to me. They're like, when do you want to go in? I go, second half, you know. And it was great. I went in on D end. And, you know, went into rush, and I thought I was going to go in like 1 or 2 series. And then Cameron goes, oh, no, get back out there. And then he put me back at linebacker for 2 series. So
make any hits?
I made a couple hits. It was just a lot of fun. I mean, just getting to practice with the team again after not having played in 19 years was just so much fun going out there for 3 weeks. And we always worry about the different era guys on the job, right? And, you know, the Vietnam guys, like the Korean guys worried, the World War II guys worried about the Korean War guys, the Korean War guys worried about the Vietnam guys, the Vietnam guys worried about like the people weren't at war, you know, and the different generations. And I'm sure, you know, the people in my father's era worried about us, and, you know, the different eras that came. And it was just amazing being out there for 3 weeks and seeing them with the Singing the Wild Rover when we went down there in DC. And I got to tell them the story of that was Bronco's, you know, like story, and, you know, that was his rookie show, and just how those guys took me, and they all tried to kill me when we were out there. Like, I had to be on full guard. I had to really play. Like, there was no like token, like, you know, there's no token running out on a football field and equipment, especially with a bunch of young 20 and 30.
And even call you grandpa or pops?
Yeah.
Come on, pops.
I get a chance.
Come on, pops.
Yeah. I get to take a chance at this chief. Like, you know, I get to line up against him, but they were great. And, you know, the guys on the team, and it makes you feel good about the future eras of what's coming up. And when I first started out underneath Pudgy Walsh and Neil Walsh, who ran the team, like just incredible human beings. Woody McHale, who you guys know.
Oh, Woody, yeah, man.
Woody very well. Like, got to play with him. Tony
That was a big dude, too,
Woody's
man.
a big dude too, Woody, man.
Yeah. At one point, we had like with Bronco on the team, we had like 6 or 7 guys who played at post with us, all playing for the FDNY team. So we were traveling the country. We were having a ball. We were all in our low 20s, just having a blast.
Living La Vida Loca, baby.
Oh, without a doubt, living your best life. That's what it's all about. And again, what other job do you get to come on, and get to do these sports that you love, right? You couldn't be a New York Giant, but I could still play football. I could still play baseball. Going to the hockey games.
Oh my God, the hockey
it's
game!
amazing.
So
like being there at UBS this year, they have a sold out arena for the NYPD FDNY hockey game, and everyone's hanging, and people still can't get tickets.
Dunkin' Donuts.
FD just won again, 6-5 too.
Yeah, great game. Great game.
Unbelievable.
Those guys still doing it, man, all the time. And those
Gotta
guys
get back out there, Roofy. Come on. Strap on the skates,
those
buddy.
guys are out there.
There you go.
They're out there beat, and then they're throwing the fisticuffs still out there. They're still doing it, man.
Yeah.
Did you see the guy right after he scored?
Like my high school football coach used to say, Freddie Gallagher from 103 and his father, Freddie Gallagher Sr. from Rescue 2. Put your helmet on, son. Time to get in the game.
Did you see the guy when he scored the goal? He gets over to the door of the bench. He puts the stick out, and the guy behind him makes like he's forcing the door, and the door opens up, and he dives in. Oh,
I thought that was awesome.
Oh my God, that was great.
Best goal celebration ever.
Oh, it was great, man.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Mikey, speaking of which, we got an update, buddy.
On
The Knicks, bro. Come on.
I just 109, 108 right now. Brunson at the free throw line, chance to tie the game with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Don't tell me anymore.
Oh my God.
I can't do another.
Don't tell me anymore.
the Knicks keep it close every game.
I wish they would just blow a team out for a change. It'd be nice.
Oh man, I really enjoyed this show. We see this guy, this chief out there, we're drinking, we're having a good time. Who thought he was so smart, Roof?
No, come on. We know he's a smart guy. I mean, all these
guys.
guys.
Got this resume, bro. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's
Not smarter than anyone else, right? I just achieved a little bit. Something.
We got to get the pops on. Maybe we'll have him and his father, and his brother.
All the son show, bro.
That's one thing about this job with being smart. I always say, the top 3% gets hired, right? Whoever takes that test. Like when you go around the country, the biggest problem around the country is recruitment right now.
Getting people, right?
And we're gonna have a test go off in June. We'll probably have 40,000 people. We'll hire 3,000 or 4,000 off of that list. Right. And it's incredible. You think about that top 3%. So everybody's just as smart. Like I tell all the probies, when I give them their safety lecture before they leave the academy, every chief of department sat in your seat on the FDNY. Right. So every chief of department started off right where you're starting off. So what you want to do with it, it's up to you. Not that you have to go that route, but I said there's 3 things you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to learn to chop garlic. Like that's a prerequisite. You're gonna do toilets. You're
Every
gonna do sheets, and you're gonna make beds. So if you think you're too good for that, you're probably on the wrong job. You know what I mean? So
that's got to be like when you're looking at it, a sea of probers, you got to be like, which one of these guys is going to be the guy? Who is that? You wouldn't be able to tell.
No, you can't tell.
No, if we went back to 1968 when your father got on, you wouldn't be able to tell. You're like, oh, this is not
that's what's his name? Metcalf is out there doing it. He's got the probe. He's sitting down there and he's up on the stage going back and forth. He's like, it's in here, bro. You know what I mean? Like some of you guys aren't going to be here. Which guy in the chair is not going to be here? You know what I mean? There's a lot of that.
I'm glad we had this guy in the chair tonight. I can tell you that, bro. Had a good time.
Mikey Cologne.
So many guys too, as you go through your career.
The other Mike, good Mike.
So many guys who were your bosses. Either you pass or you pass back through and working with them now. So that's the point why you always got to be nice to everyone that you work with too, because you never know. Like
never know, bro.
You could be your boss someday.
Yeah.
So this is one of the few jobs where that can happen, right? Like,
Or if you're at the bar and you're like, I never liked you.
Yeah.
yeah.
And all of a sudden your buddy gets a lucky Saturday and he's your boss. Look who the new lieutenant is.
Yep. That's why you always got to treat everyone how you like to be treated.
Amen. I think it might be that time, Mikey. What do you think?
I think it is.
What time is that?
It's time
you don't
for
know what time it is?
No, I don't.
It's time for
the old school tip of the day.
of the day.
Yeah. And for our Spanish speakers, del día.
Not bad, Mike.
Again, my old school tip of the day would be simply, I think, what I heard in probie school, and I have two of them really. Don't just be on the job, get into the job. That means go to things, go to events, be in the kitchen, talk to everyone, listen to everyone, and always, always, always be involved in everything going on in the firehouse. And then my second one would be, and this goes to recently retired Division Commander Jim McNally, who said to probie school, never be the guy on that riding list that everyone goes, oh. Always be the guy who's like, oh, that guy's competent. I'm gonna have a good time at work tonight. So those are my two.
I love
Never
that.
Be the guy on the riding list that everybody
goes.
Simple to the point, but effective.
And it even happens at all level in chief. You go,
Esposito.
Espo's working.
Son of a
come
bitch.
on.
Leave. Fuck.
Leave Francis. Son of a gun.
Francis. Yeah, you got
all great guys. Every one of them phenomenal. Every one of them
really
phenomenal.
I had a great time tonight, Chief. Really, I'm glad you came on. Excellent. Maybe get your father and your brother on too. We'll see.
I'll work on it. My father probably would be a tough sell. But
Yeah. He's not watching tonight.
He's not a social media guy, and he's but he's got these stories that they have, and that's one thing I always love listening to the older guys. Even still, I'll go down to Hilton Head, and a couple of his friends like Pete Rice or a couple other guys will be there, Richie Euler, and you just hear these stories.
Yeah, man.
And I still get mesmerized by them, like I'm a probie. hearing these stories. It's just that's why I always hear everyone out.
And
you never know where you're going to learn a good tip.
Some guys tell great, vivid stories. Some guys are just really good storytellers, man. You're like hanging on every word,
Yep.
Good stuff. Ruff, get any shout outs, kid?
I do actually. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, somebody sent us a text, I believe. Let me see here. Excuse me 1 second. Excuse it. Hold on 1 second. I'm right there.
This break is brought to you by.
So we got a couple of folks. Thank you for mentioning. Anthony Caliendo from Ladder 158. This was a couple of weeks ago. I want to give a shout out to Captain Jim Mockler of the Houston, Texas Fire Department. Engine 1 retired last week after 43 years of service in the city of Houston. He's a big fan of the podcast. He watches it all the time. So we'll give him a shout out, brother. Go fishing, man. Don't worry about it. It's all right.
What podcast?
What podcast?
I did it for Cliffy. See that? Cliffy. Mike, you got any shout outs?
Thanks to Jeff Warner from Towelad 158.
Which Mike you talking about, Chief or me?
You first.
No, just as always, a shout out to all my peeps at the West Haven Fire Department. One of the guys earlier, him and I were talking. He was going to watch tonight, so a shout out to my man Kyle Lang, A shift. So, and everybody else that's holding it down on A shift.
Lang in the house. All right. How about you, Chief? Any shout outs? Anything? Last words?
Yeah, I would just give a shout out again. If I didn't mention your name, I apologize. Just everybody that I've worked with my senior men who helped mentor me, who helped build the foundation, for my career that's still going. As long as I'm on, hopefully I've passed on some of what you've taught me to other people. So it continues in perpetuity. And so I just want to give a shout out to each one of them, each one of my chauffeurs and drivers, and XOs who've done an outstanding job and continue to do amazing work to help me look good. And, we do it as a team. Nothing gets done without everybody chipping in as part of the team. So just a shout out to everyone who works so hard for me each and every day.
Mike, you going to take the FDNY test?
I'm going to take a test, and it's not going to be FDNY, but it'll be somewhere in the not too distant future.
All right, Mike. Good for you. Close. Chief, thanks for coming on. Really enjoyed it. Excellent show.
We finally got him.
We did. Outstanding career, outstanding lineage in the family, and we wish the best. And stay on another 10 years. You
got it.
All right, guys. What's today? Monday. Thursday we have
Captain Marianne Monahan.
Captain Marianne Monahan.
One of the first women to come on the job.
Yep.
early 80s. My
Right.
son's a
Double
103
M.
guy.
103.
So-
103. Where is that, Chief? 103. 103. 103. I don't know. No.
Second due to
I
Bradford.
want to say to Ray and Patty Lee in the chat. I know you were early guys. That doesn't mean, dude, you were the cornerstones, the pillars of the show. You know what I mean?
Pillars.
Yeah.
And Hank, even if we didn't see him tonight, Hank too.
Hank, early guys on the
Mike
show.
Milner.
Right. Mike Milner. We appreciate you guys. If you want me to come over, I'll run over your garbage cans again. No problem. All right, guys. Until Thursday, stay low and go.
All right, everybody. We'll see you at the big one. Thanks again, Chief.
On behalf of Chief Mike Meyers, Lou Refrano, and Kevin Kubler, I'm Mike Cologne. We'll see you next time. Go Knicks, go Rangers. And as always, be advised, folks. The tones are dropping. Take care. Good night.
Snap.
Be safe.
Buff.